This is Jo McNamara here at UKIO 25 with my fellow host, Jock Anderson.
Hi everyone.
So, we have an esteemed guest with us. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Good morning, I'm Yvette Wilber and I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager at RADformation.
And we've had the privilege to work with you, haven't we, through Radiotherapy UK?
Yes, and an ambassador for Radiotherapy UK, yeah. So I've been around for a long time.
So tell us about your kind of career to date.
All right, so I started in 1983 in
Year after I was
radiotherapy. That shows how long in the tooth I am.
No, how knowledgeable and experienced you are.
I'm going to keep quiet about that.
And I went into radiotherapy because my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was in my second last year of school. So I just wanted to do that. That's all I wanted to do. And we had to do diagnostic degrees in those years.
Yeah.
So, but I arranged, and it's just so different in those years because you could organize. So every month I spent a week in oncology. So I literally started in oncology in 1983 while I was doing my diagnostic degree, and then moved over and did my honours and then did a master's degree. Then I got the fantastic opportunity to go to Botswana and go start a radiation oncology unit from scratch. And that was the most incredible experience of my life. It really was. I got there and we just laid the floors. So I was involved from the start of building up this department, speaking to, because it was in a private hospital, so it's now called Life Health Care.
Right.
At that stage it was just GPH, Gaborone Private Hospital. And we negotiated with the government because we knew we wouldn't be able to fund the unit wouldn't last if we just had private patients. And all the government patients were going over to Zimbabwe or to South Africa. So what they were doing, they were only sending most of the palliative cases who never came back home.
Yeah.
So we literally, no one in the hospitals knew how to treat cancer patients, so they didn't know about the side effects or anything. So we set out on a very ambitious project, and we negotiated with the government. So we would go into Parliament, the radiation oncologist and I. So we were the two. There were no physicists, nothing. It was just the two of us. And we then hired another RTT, and but Dr. Yenis Magda and I would go in and we'd address Parliament. So, address the Prime Minister, address the Cabinet, and explain to them what we wanted to do. And it took us months to do it. Eventually we got the government
I love that it was just months though, because
could have taken years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Think of the amount of times in Radiotherapy UK we've been to the House of Commons in the past 10 years.
Yeah, months is pretty impressive.
But we also, it was like, really, it was not easy negotiations. We really had to, and we explained to them, and then we had to start, then they said to us, right, where are the patients going to stay? So then we had to set up an interim home. I have never begged so much in my life.
No.
And then when we got the interim home, it was right next to where the TB patients were staying. So you can imagine these immune-compromised patients and trying to keep them separate, because it was just old wards that were discarded that we then set up and built, and we planted gardens and we tried to make it, painted the rooms and did everything. And then we had to get a bus to transport the patients, and we didn't have a bus driver. So we were 2 radiographers, 1 oncologist, and 1 chemo nurse. And we started our department. And in the beginning, we had like 3 or 4 patients. And then one day, we didn't know when the government patients were arrived. And I walked in one morning to calibrate the machine, and there was a room full. There were about 40 patients sitting.
Oh, wow.
And the government contract had started.
Right.
And that's how we knew.
That's a way to find out, isn't it?
And I just texted all my staff, because then I had 6 radiographers working for me in prep for this. And I said to them, come ready with your work boots today, because this is going to be quite a day. So, we started with them and things. Then we needed to get a bus. So Ian Palmer was vice president, and his brother, we managed to get a bus. They donated a bus to us. So I then had to get a bus driver license to drive the bus. because I didn't have a
Jack
bus
of all
driver.
trades.
So I would go in the morning, I'd calibrate the machine, and then I'd drive all the way to the interim home, which was quite a distance from us.
Yeah.
Pick up the patients, bring them back, treat them, and then when I've got enough patients, I'd drive them back and then come back with the next load of patients. And that's how we started. So, yeah.
Wow.
So
That's
it was really
incredible.
And then we set up a cancer association in Botswana, which I'm really proud of. One of my patients, we treated a young lady of 13 when she was diagnosed, and she had nasopharyngeal carcinoma, and she had almost a stage 3. And you know, those days in the early 2000s, it was still the lateral opposing fields, the electron fields and things. It was really big fields. And she went for a bone marrow transplant and things, and we didn't know if she'd survive.
Yeah.
And she did. She pulled through, and she's running the Cancer Association now in Botswana.
Wow.
So she still pings me regularly. And often on Facebook she'll say, "Oh, I remember this day, you were like a mom to me," because I just used to bring her home to my children, because my children were just a few years younger. So she kind of grew up with my kids, because she spent over a year there. So she was she was in our house and things. So that was, And
what
then
an incredible start to a career.
Yeah.
Like,
How many
It
linear
was-
accelerators do they have now?
they've still only got one.
Still got one.
Yeah, and they've got a CT simulator now, but a second department has started up.
Oh, cool.
So they've got 2 departments in Gaborone.
But for the access, then thinking for Botswana with the population, how far do people have to travel?
They travel far.
Yeah.
They come on buses, they come on so sometimes they travel 6 to 8 hours and on buses, and then they stay there.
Similar in India. I remember seeing some of the government radiotherapy centres, like you say, with those 40 patients, but there'd be lines of hundreds of patients just camped outside.
Yeah. And it's really hard because they come and they come on their own. So little Bontley came on her own. So she
Yeah.
had no parents with her. No one came because they couldn't afford to come.
yeah.
So, you've got to... so our house was constantly a house where there were children that were being treated with cancer. And my kids just grew up with this. And just, it never...
Never
they were
occurred to them
It never
that
occurred
wasn't
to them
normal.
that this wasn't
Yeah.
normal. We'd have kids that had rhabdomyosarcoma, so had legs amputated, or, just all sorts of things, or just all sorts of things. And the kids didn't even blink. Nothing put them off. They just carried
Yeah.
on and just befriended these kids. So it was really good, yeah.
So what led you from that point to then now working for RADformation?
Well, then, so 2004, moved over to the UK. Came with my husband, who wanted to move. I didn't want to leave. We didn't want to leave. I just wanted to stay because I just thought there was such a future.
Yeah.
There was still so much to do. But came to the UK, and then I locumed at Maidstone, and then I took over the Canterbury superintendent position. But after, starting up a department and having so much freedom and setting the protocols and things, and so you tend to think a lot out of the box when you're in countries like that. You've got to, because there isn't
Yeah.
money for anything. And I just felt so boxed in with the guidelines, the NHS, and it wasn't anything to do. I loved the department, loved the staff, but I just thought I need to change careers. So I worked for Electa for a good 8 years. Was joined as an application specialist, and then eventually I was the downstream product manager of Monaco. And some of my developers that I'd worked with in Electa left and found the Velocity.
Yeah.
I don't know if Velocity was around for a few years, and then they invited me to come join them. So they started up out of Emory, and at that stage I was based in the States. I'd left the UK and I was living in the States. So I joined them, and we were then acquired by Varian. So then came over to Varian and promoted Velocity for a good 3 years worldwide. So I travelled all over, trained Velocity, and my husband was the technical support, so he travelled all around with me. So we toured the world, the two of us.
Oh, nice.
Kids were out of the house, so it was just the two of us. And at Varian, I just started. As it got bigger and bigger,
Yeah.
I just felt I was a better fit for a smaller company. And one of my ex-colleagues said to me, just let me know when you want to come over. I'm not going to coach you, but if you want to come over, I'd love to have you.
That's very politically correct, isn't it?
And one day I said to him, Joe, I think it's time to come. And yeah, so the rest is history, and I've been with RADformation now since the beginning of the year.
Incredible. So what, for anyone listening who's never heard of RADformation, what is it?
So RADformation is I would say it's the icing on the cake. If the cake is the treatment planning system, RADformation is the icing on the top. So it just takes the product. So it's a company that was founded by clinical physicists who worked, and it's products that they wanted, or that we wanted when we were clinical. And they've really kept their ears to the ground and very involved. So everything we do at RADformation, all the tools we create, is tools that we know will just expedite your workflow, automate your workflow. We've got from the start, from pre-treatment, we've got our auto-contouring tools, so AI-based auto-contouring tools. And we've got over 290 structures now. We do rigid and deformable registration. And we work through, so if you've got Eclipse, it's basically SAPI scripting, and it looks very integrated into the system. And we're now branching out into Monaco and RayStation. So we've just released some products that use their TPS scripting, and then that works with DICOM. So with Eclipse, the SAPI scripting just goes, closely plugged into Eclipse and ARIA. And now Mosaic, Monaco and RayStation, we're working with them. So we've got the auto-contouring, and then we've got another product called Easy Fluence. And Easy Fluence is basically our forward planning tool. Yeah. So what we can do is and I'm now going to speak of Eclipse, but we're just about to release Easy Fluence for Monaco and Easy Fluence for RayStation as well. Right. Works on more or less the same principle, just always remembering the DICOM import and export, which we don't need in Eclipse. And you just put on your 2 tan fields if you're treating a breast. So it does field in field and e-com. And what it does then, that goes through with the script to Easy Fluence, and within 5 to 10 minutes you've got a field in field or an e-com plan. And it sends it out, does the final recalc in Eclipse, and you're ready to go. And it does not only for breast, anything from head to toe, any palliative treatment you can do. So if you need to quickly get a patient on the bed, it's a really nice tool to have, and it's so simple. It's really simple. Then we have, once you've done the planning, and there's more to come with Easy Fluence. There's far more. Think of IMRT, VMAT. There's a lot more to come. We're working on that now. And once you've done your plan, you can then do your checks. So we've got a couple of checks We've got Clear Check, which you can basically use that throughout your planning phase. So it's really nice. And when you've done your structures, you've created your contours, and you start planning, and then you've got that little field. I don't know, I always used to miss a slice here and there. Or you've got those little pixels, those stray pixels that are all over. And this you do a structure check, and it will tell you exactly which slice, exactly where the stray pixels are, so you can quickly correct it.
Oh, wow.
Also does things like dose constraints. So it can pull in the dose constraints from Eclipse, you can add extra. The nice thing is if you're doing something a little bit out of the ordinary, you can just add multiple dose constraints. So you've got them all in the templates, and then you just add them. And you say, right, for this plan I actually need multiple different dose constraints. Checks the plan prescription, so make sure that you're treating what the physician has prescribed. We do collision checks, which is really nice, because if you've done your plan, it's sometimes difficult to know, and it gives you the exact slice where the collision is, and then you can play around and say, right, if I've got a table kick of say 20 degrees, maybe 18 degrees will work, and you can tell, so then you just correct it in your treatment planning system. Also has BD and EQD2 tools, so when you're doing dose summations. So in auto contour we can do the registration, and then we do the dose summation, and we can just check it in Clear Check.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then Clear Calc with Rad Monte Carlo, just do your secondary dose calculation. And it's so easy because everything works with a script. You just, in Eclipse you select your script. In the other systems, you've got to do a DICOM import, export. Not that difficult, but if you've got Eclipse, everything just flows quite smoothly. And you can do your, in under 2 minutes, you do your Monte Carlo check. So you can look at different things. You can do your gamma analysis. You can do, so many tools to use there.
You can tell you're really passionate about what you do. I love it. Absolutely
I love it. And you know what I do? I love the ethos of the company.
Yeah.
So we were at Estro. Kurt, our CEO, still demos. So he's really, feet
Still
in the sand.
embedded
He's still
into it.
embedded in it.
Yeah.
And he loves it. And I learned so much when he was demoing. And all our founders are still so involved in, and they're very involved in the clinical side as well. So they really understand. And they're not arrogant. Kurt is so laid back. It's a lovely company ethos. So it's really, really great.
Nice. Well, thanks so much for coming on. It's been very fascinating to hear.
Right. And then we haven't even spoken about Chart Check and RADmachine, so we still have other products. So Chart Check, just quickly, Chart Check does your weekly physics checks.
Okay.
Automated. We've got over 35 TG275 checks.
Yep.
And basically when the patient's off the bed, it checks and it sends if there's any error. If you didn't put your bolus on, or wrong dose, or machine stopped, Linac went down, it does that. And RADmachine is just our overall comprehensive QA program that, hello, did I bring my pet with me?
We've just got a fly buzzing around us.
And RADmachine is just our QA platform.
Yeah.
And basically, it pulls in, it doesn't do the QA, but it replaces all those spreadsheets and all those files that we put up. And it monitors your QA, and it can do automated image analysis, over 100 templates in it. And it can do, so if I run up my machine as a RAD in the morning, and there's something, a flatness fault or something wrong, it automatically sends an email to the physicist to alert them. And you can plug in with your engineers as well. Any engineers who do, so Varian, Elector engineers, can plug in with them, checks after the service that all the QA has been done, and it quickly alerts you. It tells you when your dosimeters must go in for recalibration, or any of your ion chambers, or anything you're using.
Amazing.
So there we go.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on and
thank
telling us
you.
about all your amazing work with RADformation and your very inspiring career.
Thank you.
No,
Thank
it's a great story, and one you should be very proud of, I'm sure.
Thank you. Thank you.